Welcome to Candid with Index. Today we are thrilled to have Dylan Field from Figma, founder and CEO. So Dylan, thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be back in the Index office where we did our first seed round pitch in 2013 when you invested and led our seed round.
Right on, just around the corner.
Yep.
So actually, this is going to be a great conversation, but I'd like to start with the first time that I met you, which was in the Flipboard offices where I think you were like 19 at the time?
Probably, yeah.
You came in...
Yeah, 19 probably, 18,
19. Yeah, you came in to present this analysis that you had been doing on the types of folks and their interests who were on Flipboard, and came up with some very important thoughts and important data that we use to figure out at least how to reorient the product. And then the next time I heard about you was from Jeff Weiner at LinkedIn, when I was telling him about sort of who's going to inherit the mantle of important incumbents, including Adobe. And I remember him saying, I have this incredible intern that I'm trying to hold on to, but by God, the guy wants to start a company. It sounds really relevant, so you should talk to him. So then we met, and then we ended up closing a round or a deal here, the seed round. But what I remember was that I was surprised about the fact that at that age, you already knew you wanted to be a founder and start your own business. When did that idea of becoming an entrepreneur really kick into your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I was at O'Reilly Media in high school.
Yeah.
And when I was working there in high school, I got to really interact with a lot of the tech ecosystem. They're up in Sebastopol, so a bit north of San Francisco, but still close enough that people would come up there for different events that they had. And I'd go to events for them, and I would interact with founders and entrepreneurs. And I think saw through that it's a viable career path for anyone. And I was already interested in computer science and math, and was studying programming and making websites, doing design work then, and the chance then to go to college to study computer science more formally, to do internships at companies that are awesome, like LinkedIn and Flipboard. I was at Flipboard twice. They were kind enough to have me back as a design intern the second time. Met my co-founder, Evan. He was my TA at Brown. And we started talking about, would we ever start a company together? And Evan had a really compelling set of visions and thoughts around WebGL in particular, this new technology that let you use the GPU in your computer in the browser. And we started riffing on it and talking about what could be possible with this technology, and realized that you could make any game, any creative tool with WebGL. And we thought, okay, just like Word went to Google Docs, all these creative tools Adobe's making will also go to the cloud because of WebGL. That'll make it so that people are able to access the software in a whole new way, make it more collaborative, make it more community-oriented. And we got really excited about those changes.
What's also interesting is, and we'll get into this, we've talked about this, you are a man of many interests and many passions. And I suspect that you were enjoying yourself at Brown. I mean, you're not someone who went because they had to check a box. No. You probably were having a really good time. So why was there this immediate urge of not finishing, but really having to start a company then and there? What was the need to immediately start the company?
Well, I think that most companies, when you start them, there's usually a good why now. And the why now could be social. It could be technological, it could be regulatory. Twitter, for example, some people ask, like, what's why now for Twitter? 140, 280 characters, right, whatever. And I think for me, I look at Twitter and go, okay, well, there's a social change because one, people started using their mobile phones, and originally Twitter was texting number. And two, people have been using AIM for a long time, and they had away messages at their settings. So this behavior had evolved of like, I set away messages, I update my web message, and that basically translated into a tweet.
Yes.
For us, we're looking for a technology why now. What's a reason why we can go make a business when before it wasn't possible? And so that led us to drones and WebGL. And then Evan said, from a regulatory standpoint, drones sound terrible. Hardware is really difficult. I don't want to go through the run debug loop of hardware.
Right.
And it felt like, wow, this is a unique point in time when Evan hasn't taken a full-time job yet. There's a technology that's just like ripe for using that no one's discovered. And we feel like we're like a good 2 years ahead of on. And if we wait, then that opportunity will be seized by someone else.
Right.
The reality was it took a long time for people to warm up to WebGL.
Yeah.
So maybe we could have waited another year or 2 years.
Yes.
But I think that the analysis was correct. And if you see an opportunity because of some changing environment, usually you want to capitalize on that right away.
Right.
The reality is that you still might then go pitch people and they'll probably tell you that sounds insane.
Right.
That's definitely what we heard in terms of, we're going to build creative tools in the browser, and people said, good luck.
Right.
But eventually we got to the point where we built it and we showed it to them and they're like, I don't know how you did this, but this is awesome.
But I guess what I'm trying to drive at is, and I'm sure you can appreciate this, that if you think about the companies that have been most significant, it's not as though had you started a half a year or a year later, you would have missed the window, because it's so much work to actually execute and build something of substance that's going to stand the test of time. So, I mean, you could have said, okay, I'm going to park that for the moment and come back once I graduate. But was it the fact that you wanted to make sure you had Evan before he started his first job? I'm trying to get back to Dylan at that moment, who had the foresight of starting right then and there.
I felt a lot of urgency. It was like Evan I was sure that other people would figure out how good he was and, give him so much comp that it'd be hard for him to walk away. I felt like the market was really ready for this. The technology was brand new and we had unique insight. TL fellowship was another thing. At the time it was 20 under 20 and I was still under 20, so I could apply for that.
Okay.
And get $100,000 over 2 years, which would be non-dilutive and we could use to start figuring out what we're doing. That was important because when I went with creative tools, but we actually, despite having the sort of insight around WebGL, it took a good 9 months for us to figure out we're going to point this in a design direction. Even though I'd been a design intern at Flipboard, I'd seen the problem firsthand. I was like, the market's too small. And speaking of why now, that's another why now is the market changes. And for design, we've seen the market really multiply in terms of how many people are actually designers and using these tools.
Yeah.
In the past, we wouldn't have been able to have like a really large market cap as a company or substantial revenue because there just weren't as many designers in the world. And that's grown at such an incredible rate.
Although, I don't know if this is revisionist or not. This is where maybe I'm aging, but I sort of feel like we had a conversation, the sort of you, Evan, myself, Terrence at the time, sort of thinking people are underestimating the size of the design market in any case. Like, given how sophisticated these things in our pockets are and how people are so intelligent about or expecting such high sophistication of design, this is going to be pervasive. Have I created that narrative in the...
Well, I think it's true eventually. The question was when. So I think when we first pitched you at Index in the room over there, well, I actually had the pitch recorded if you ever want to see it.
Cool.
We were very vague about exactly what tool we'd be building first. And the reason for the vagueness was not like anything malicious, it's like we didn't know.
Right.
And so I think we had this very broad vision of we're going to do photo editing and we're going to do design, we're going to do computational photography, we're going to do sort of raster manipulation and compositing, illustration. It was like we want to do all the things.
Right.
And I think we started to go build it and realized, whoa, doing all the things at once is really hard.
Yeah.
We should focus in on one use case rather than trying to do like 10.
Yeah.
Instead we focused in on design.
Right.
So I think maybe that was like the first board meeting was, and we're focusing.
Yes.
But the original pitch was very broad.
Okay, so maybe I was seeing what I wanted to, or hearing what I wanted to hear in that first pitch.
No, I think the first few years of the company, you were well ahead of us in terms of like, here's the opportunity. I remember one phone call where you called me and you're like, Dylan, sometimes I think that I'm more excited about your market opportunity than you are. And I was like, cool, can you articulate why?
I do remember that. I also remember you showing me the John Warnock sort of YouTube video of the first demo of
Illustrator. Yeah.
Okay, let's switch gears for a second and talk about leadership style. So, I've told many people, including yourself, how blown away I've been with your leadership style and how you've evolved over time and gone from first focusing on product and design and then becoming more commercial while not compromising. So can you tell us about your leadership model that you use or that you think about on how you organize your time to think about the different components of the business?
Yeah. The sort of meta would be whatever you find yourself doing most of, try to hire for that. And then if you find yourself doing a lot around an area that someone's already in, you might want to question whether or not things are working. And so I think if you apply that over time, where it gets to is a place where you have leaders that you try to really empower, you do your best to make sure that you understand like what problems they're facing, be as helpful as possible to accelerate them. But, if you're in this spot where, you're checking in every hour with someone for months on end, like that means you have low trust, something's not working, you got to make a change or you have to figure out a way to complement them.
Yeah.
In terms of the way I've evolved over time, a lot, as you've seen.
Yeah.
I think in the early days of Figma had no experience with management and had to learn that. And the team, unfortunately, had to deal with me learning that.
Yeah.
One thing that was really useful was hiring people I could learn from. So my direct reports in pretty much every area have taught me things. Hopefully I've taught them some stuff as well.
Yeah.
But I think the reverse mentorship, and almost it's a red flag if you think that you're hiring someone that you're not going to learn from.
Right.
So it's one thing I think a lot of people get wrong is they have this mental model of I have to hire people who I know more than in an area.
Right.
And it's like almost always wrong.
Right. Yeah.
And on the commercial side, I think it's like anything else, just the more time you put into it and you think about monetization, you figure out how to go approach that, the better. And the more you'll pick it up. Like I remember, we were free for a very long time for Figma. And the reason why was we didn't feel like the product was quite right.
Yeah.
But then we probably stayed free for like 6 months more than we should have.
Yes.
And at some point, we had a very large customer, possibly based in Seattle, I won't say who told us, hey, the fact that you're free is actually inhibiting your growth at this point. We cannot spread Figma within our organization because no one believes you're going to be around anymore.
Right.
And, around the same time, we had this board meeting where you said, hey, Dylan, like, you just got to be more commercial. I'm like, what do you mean, Danny? And you're like, well, you can start by charging for the product. And, click, some light bulb went off.
Yeah.
Maybe this customer in Seattle, they're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And then we kind of went, all in on, let's go figure out how to make this a paid model. And that really did help our growth.
Absolutely. I also think, one of the aspects that I've witnessed is that Evan, as a co-founder, was obviously critical on coming up with the product, and he was a real partner of yours as you were building the rest of the organization. He was building an enormous amount of the product and the product, vision or product direction.
Especially technology direction. I mean,
exactly.
I think he was, both of us work on the product together, but on the technology side, Evan was doing, in months what other people would take years to do in a large team.
Right.
So it was incredible how much he set us apart in the early days, and also his conviction in the web.
Yeah.
Because without that,
yes.
I think most people would have said, oh, the web is just not ready for this. And Evan was like, we'll figure out how to make it ready.
That's right.
And if I need to patch Chrome and submit a bug fix, I will.
Right. That aspect. And then the other aspect is he picked his battles because he had so much faith in you as a leader. But there were a couple of instances he was pretty critical on the commercial side where I remember him saying, like, yeah, Dylan, maybe it's time.
Yeah, totally. It's amazing what a great co-founder will do and what difference they make.
Yeah.
Not only in terms of just having a sounding board, but also I think everyone has these like intense highs and lows in the entrepreneurial journey. And if you have someone who's like highs and lows are somewhat offset, it gets a lot more tolerable.
The other aspect I wanted to talk to you about was, and we've seen this, and many entrepreneurs that are starting a business for the first time, and it sometimes is their first sort of real job, full-time job, basically bring everything down to the first principles. And so when they look at every function, they can understand it through first principles. And in the early days, I feel like that was what you were up against. Like, wait, if I take this this part of the organization down to first principles and understand it, then I can lead the direction of it.
Yep.
And then I feel at some point you sort of said like, okay, I can understand it that way, but that's not what I'm going to hire for.
Yes and no. I think like we've been pretty deliberate in making sure that every exec we hire, for example, is able to make a new playbook when that's needed. And isn't just trying to like implement a playbook that is existing.
Right.
That's always another red flag for me, is if someone can only talk in terms of the playbooks they've seen rather than figure out what the new thing should be.
Right.
I do think that there's trade-offs in terms of breaking everything to first principles. You can make a very efficient organization by really thinking about things from first principles and probably get some unique product insights and market insights. It probably slows you down too.
Yeah.
So, just like how fast you have to run at different times. And I think that the main thing I'd say is that if people are in a place where they have just insane market demand, or they've actually gotten to that place where the product is getting pulled out of them, the product market pull is there, you probably want to move as fast as you can to serve that market. And that might involve hiring people who are going to do things that you might not fully understand completely yet.
Right.
Like you might hire your first sales leader before you're convinced that you need a quota.
But I feel like there was like an unlock that happened with you where you shifted from, as you said, my organization had to sort of be patient with me. I don't know if you use those words, but something along those lines. You said they had to bear with me as I learned management. And there was an unlock happened where you truly changed the caliber of person that you were looking for your management team.
Yeah, well, I think for everyone at Figma, at some point it was like, okay, we're going to be really strenuous in terms of what we're looking for in the way in. But then also recognize that like if we've hired some incredible talent, then we actually need to empower them too and trust them.
Right.
And if you don't, then that's an issue. You talk about it, you give feedback, you work through it. But otherwise, you actually have to trust them. You can't just like do it all yourself and then ask them to help.
And that at first was a little difficult for you.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
So,
absolutely.
and then you decided, okay, was it because things were accelerating so quickly, or
what was it all right?
Yeah.
It was like I wanted to think through every product decision myself and make sure that we're going to go for the whole home run. And the reality is too, is you don't need everything to be a home run as a business.
Right.
You can have some base hits too. So, but you also have to have some home runs.
Right. You are someone that I often think, okay, I'm significantly older. I've been in the professional world for a lot longer. I've seen many more models, and I don't understand how you can organize yourself to do so many different activities well in the same day. So walk us through how you think of that. I mean, from the way that you're running the company to investing, to reading about new areas, to being on top of new trends. Please.
I think that at the end of the day, you have some budget of energy. And what I found is that you can hack that budget by doing things that you really like. So if I dig into an area of the business that I'm either really excited about or I'm really worried about, like that definitely gives me energy. If I meet a company or read about a new area that I think is really fascinating, that gives me more energy too. I think if you can find ways to kind of continually do things that are interesting to you, and then also find ways to the things that aren't interesting to make sure that people in the organization are able to support those areas, those are some ways to kind of help.
And are there times when it just drains you and you need to just stop everything and take a moment?
Yeah, sure. I think everyone's like that. And
so to be clear, the reason why we're having an interview and I'm asking you this is not everyone's like you. So,
well, I find that, if like I'm feeling really drained by something, it's usually because it's a big emotional decision or there's something going on that like I feel stuck on. And when that happens, I just try to like decompress, take a walk, do something completely different, put my phone away, sleep. Like these are all things that can really help.
I don't think you sleep very much. Am I right?
I sleep a good amount.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I feel like you're available often at these wacky hours.
Well, it's because I think sometimes we have this thing happen where you're in Europe and I'm in the United States.
Right.
I know that I really have to connect with someone something and then like I'll wake up and I'll call you in the middle of the night. So it's not because I'm not sleepy. It's
I'm just testing you. Sometimes I'll wake up.
I can call you and I can go back to sleep right afterwards.
Okay, good to know. And if I may, and it seems like I may, because you're here. When you think of what your mom has brought to you, what is it? And then I'll ask you about your dad. Like what have they really as a character trait or a superpower that they've instilled in you?
Gosh, my mom is amazing. As my dad was my dad. My mom whenever we walked on the street or just like be driving, she would be looking at people and going, how are they doing? Are they okay? She was a teacher in her profession, and the number of kids that came up to us like at the grocery market and would say, "Mrs. Field, you changed my life in this way," was pretty incredible to witness. And I think just like the empathy and care she brought in everyday situations definitely left a mark on me and changed the way that I think and relate to people. My dad, super curious guy, very well read, very brave, and very dedicated. And I think all those traits are things I've tried to model. And I'm not there on all of them to his level, but there are things that I feel like he really left me with.
And while you were growing up, were your parents sort of saying, you must do better in this topic, in this subject? I mean, you actually were really good at math from very early on, right? Didn't you take like university courses or community college courses?
Yeah, I was lucky to have a chance to take university classes in high school.
Right.
My high school was a public high school on the campus of a local university, and then I went to junior college too. And my dad would drive me to O'Reilly for internships. Otherwise, I'd be taking the bus for other places. But they were just kind of always of the mind of do the best you can. And then my mom's rule was if you commit to something, you have to do it.
Well, listen, Dylan, thank you so much.
Thanks, Danny.
I could carry on forever, but really appreciate your time. And it was really fun to have this candid conversation with you.
Thank you.
Can't wait for the next 10.